News today from the auto world, a day after Detroit's Big Three reported strong February sales. AutoNation, the country's largest seller of new and used cars, reported a big jump in its numbers. New vehicle sales rose 29% compared to a year ago, and U.S. brands made up 40% of the sales. GM models were especially popular. Joining us now, AutoNation's president, MikeMaroone. Hi, Mike. Nice to have you on the program.
Hi, Susie. Thanks for having me tonight.
All right, so you've had 2 months of back-to-back strong sales, but as you heard on our report, a lot of concerns about higher oil prices, higher gasoline prices getting close to $4 a gallon. Could that break the momentum?
Susie, at this point, it's not a factor in the purchase decision. We're seeing consumers have really normal spending patterns. Certainly fuel efficiency is a consideration, but it's not the driving factor. Now, as fuel prices move up, or when fuel prices move up, it could be a factor. We call it the freak-out point, and that's somewhere north of $4 a gallon.
And so that's when consumers just say, that's going to be just too much for me to fill a tank, and they back off from coming into the showrooms?
No, I think it's actually where they move to different products. And we saw it back in 2008, where there was a radical move from large SUVs to smaller cars. I don't think you'll see that kind of radical move today. What we've got is a lot more fuel-efficient products from every manufacturer. So I don't think it will stop business. I certainly think it would shift mix, but at this point in time, it hasn't been a factor.
So going into the spring selling season, what kinds of vehicles do you think will be the best sellers? What kind of brands are going to be popular in this current environment?
Well, right now we're seeing a real surge in the domestic products. As you mentioned earlier, the domestic sales were up 40% for AutoNation. The import sales were up 35%. And in the import category, Toyota was red hot, up 71%. And on the domestic side, all three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, all were very strong. In terms of model mix, the crossover segment is still very strong, and we're seeing a lot of small, fuel-efficient vehicles being introduced that are getting lots of attention, including the two electric vehicles, the Leaf and the Volt.
And Mike, what about any kind of special deals or incentives to entice consumers to buy?
Well, almost every day there's a new incentive. They're used in a very tactical manner. The incentives are relatively flat with prior periods, but today we saw GM announce 0% financing up to 72 months on specific models. We're seeing Honda increase their incentives. Nissan's got a very aggressive program. Toyota's been aggressive. So almost every manufacturer has something, and it varies tremendously. It's certainly tactically driven, and it is stimulating business.
And what about on the credit side? For someone that does need financing, is it getting easier to get a loan, or is it still pretty tough?
Susie, it's gotten much easier, and the big driver of the recovery in 2010 was the restoration of credit. The change in 2011 is we're now seeing an improving environment for subprime. So last year, prime and near prime were more normal. And this year, we're starting to see the subprime segment come along, and that's very important for our industry.
All right. Well, interesting information. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.
Thank you, Susie.
We've been speaking with MikeMaroone of AutoNation.